Hey, I'm Ron Drotos from KeyboardImprov.com, and welcome to our journey through the real book number 167, which is the great jazz standard, I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free. And this is the kind of jazz piano lesson that I used to love to get, especially when I studied with Billy Taylor in the 80s, and coincidentally, or not, he wrote this tune. So it's a very special installment of this series for me because it's very close to my heart. The tune was written in 1964, which happened to be the year I was born. So I did not hear this or recognize it. And I don't remember it from the 60s. I didn't hear it, but or I don't remember hearing it. But I did hear Billy play it a lot, both solo piano and with his trio. And I studied with him when I was, 18? This is 1984 through 88, 89. I used to take a summer jazz camp program at University of Massachusetts called Jazz in July, which he founded. And there was a lot of great jazz greats around. Max Roach, Bobby Thomas, who was his drummer, who also was one of the founders of the show Chorus Line and musical coordinator for that, and developed a lot of the rhythms early on for that show with Michael Bennett, the choreographer. And I got close to him. And so I'd study with Billy at this jazz camp in July every year, and then we'd stay in touch throughout the year. He was a very nice man. I'll start by telling you you know what? At the end, I'll tell you a Charlie Parker story that you won't hear anywhere else that he told me. It's a really good one too. But I want to get right to the tune. So he wrote this tune in the 60s because his daughter was studying music in school. I don't know how old she was, 8 years old, 10 years old, 14, whatever. And they were studying music and music history, but Billy was asking her about it, and he realized that they weren't learning anything in her class about African American music, particularly spirituals. And he thought that was a really big part of American music, jazz, but also church music, African American church music. Spirituals, like Sometimes I Feel Like a Motherless Child, or Joshua Foot the Battle of Jericho, things like that. So he sat down, and he said he wrote it very quickly, I think like a half hour or something. He wrote this tune, and if you play it slowly, it really does sound like a beautiful church song. Sounds just like something that I used to play in a lot of churches, occasionally still do. So he wrote this tune, and it's usually played at like a lively straight eighths kind of feeling. Something like that. It's got that catchy rhythm. And it doesn't have particularly jazz harmonies. It's a triad. F major, A7, not sharp 9, 11, flat 13. You can even play that D minor as a triad. 7 sounds good too. And now I think in the third measure, this B flat major 7. I don't think he ever played the B flat with the major 7. We can check it out on the record. Maybe it's in there sometimes, at least not during the melody. I don't think he would have played it. It just sounds pure as a triad. And then the C7 sus4 is really a B flat over C. Or maybe even G minor 7. I don't know if there was a sixth in there. I think the real book kind of jazzified some of the chords a little too much, maybe. But then when he soloed over it, sometimes he would just go to jazzland harmonically. And that's my biggest challenge playing it. What I was going to say is the reason he did it up-tempo pretty much is because that was very much in vogue at the time. Herbie Hancock's Watermelon Man was around then. Sort of this jazz soul kind of thing, Very early to mid 60s kind of thing, and then later, and that eventually became jazz rock and fusion. So it's right in that time, Wade in the Water. People used to play a spiritual like this. They used to take Wade in the Water and go, see, it's the same tempo. Lots of octaves. fun style to play. So my biggest challenge is I have not only the memory of how he sounded playing it, but I'm sitting next to him in rehearsals, or one time he just let me watch him practice for an hour, and he just went through a whole bunch of tunes to keep limber. And I was sitting right there on a chair in this little practice room. There was a grand piano, and he just played for about an hour. Very generous person. He'd improvise over it, but then like the second chorus, he'd just go into this double time thing with jazz chords. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Just this double time, kind of Charlie Parker kind of thing, right? So if I start there, I'm starting from and this is for everybody, if you start from an image of what you've heard before, it can kind of be okay sometimes to get you where you want. But if you're completely starting from there, it's like starting in this little box. It's not from your whole musicality. So I had to find a way to sort of, over the years, because I play this tune, I had to find a way to get into it on my own terms. And then if that kind of appears, great, because I love it, right? And I love the way he played it, and I can do it like that. So what I do is I start it slowly, and I pretend I'm in church, because I played a lot of gospel music in church. So I just start like, okay, I'm playing, and it's during, some sort of church service, where they play gospel music. So I go there, and then eventually the tempo can kick in, and then I'm already on my terms. That's one of the keys, the secrets, if you will, to really playing our best. Find a way that you can come at it kind of organically. And then when I'm here, I don't immediately think of Billy Taylor so much. I think of, like, I'm playing with a gospel choir, and they're all just singing. And then if the other stuff starts happening, great. If not, I'm already in the groove. So I don't put any pressure on myself to get there, because it just feels so good playing with this imaginary gospel choir. So there you go. I'm going to start off with the sort of out of tempo, sort of spirituals kind of vibe, and then we'll see if it gets the double time or not. that really went on a journey there. It really did encompass everything I was talking about before. We started off slowly, sort of went into that groove. I was picturing the gospel choir and hearing this warmth of sound that supports us. You know, when we're playing solo even, we're not all on our own. You know, we can recall things. We can feel somebody listening and somebody singing if we want, and draw on our experiences and our present experiences too, and feel that. Because and right now, playing for someone I know is going to be listening, it really is a support. It helps after a while. Not like, oh no, I got to play something great, right? It helps because we're all experiencing the music together. And, just to get a little sentimental, I wish that Billy Taylor could have heard me be able to play like that, because I think he heard a spark in my playing and how hardworking I was, and he would support that, but and encourage that. But I certainly couldn't play like that at that time. So anyway, okay, the Charlie Parker story. So one day. So Billy Taylor was the house pianist at Birdland, the old Birdland, not the current one, the legendary jazz club. It was on Broadway, I think at the corner of 51st. I don't know if it was right on 52nd or maybe 54th. It was somewhere in the low 50s on Broadway, on the corner or somewhere, right around 52nd Street, which was where all the other jazz clubs were. And he was the house pianist for a while, I think in the early to mid 50s. And so he'd play for all the jam sessions, and I guess if somebody needed a pianist or, I don't know what. But he was there a lot. So he was also studying classical piano at the Manhattan School of Music at the time. And so he was practicing this Debussy prelude. He got there early one day. Nobody's in the club, and he's at the piano playing Debussy. And it was, one of these sort of, I don't know, some prelude that was pretty fancy. Lots of arpeggios and stuff like that. He played me a little bit. It wasn't one that I knew. And Charlie Parker walked in early. And Charlie's got his saxophone case, and he walks in, and he's like, "Hey, Billy." And he goes, "I know that." And Billy Taylor's like, "Oh, yeah, it's a Debussy prelude. It's a piano piece." And Charlie Parker's like, "Yeah, I know it." He's like, "Well, yeah, you've heard it, right?" And he goes, "No, I can play it." And Billy's like, "Well, what do you mean you can play it? It's a piano piece. Nobody plays that except pianists." And Charlie Parker's like, "I can play it." And he takes out his sax, and he just goes and plays the whole thing. Billy couldn't believe it. That's how not only talented and talented Charlie Parker was, but he also had very eclectic tastes. Listened to everything. He might have even heard it from the recording and was able to play it at that level of natural ability and talent. Or maybe he practiced out of the piano book, because I do know he did things like that, played out of different exercise books, clarinet books, and piano. He was interested in everything. So there you go. That's a Charlie Parker story that I've never seen anywhere else, from Billy Taylor to me to you. So thanks for being here. Good luck with your playing. Let me know how I can help you in any way through Skype, Zoom lessons, my video course at KeyboardImprov.com if you're interested. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts about this tune or that story or anything. I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next Journey Through the Real Book. Take care.